In this video, I'm going to be discussing 5 music topics that I think should be taught in every middle school music classroom. Hey everyone, my name is Julia from GU Teaching Resources, and I'm a passionate music teacher and educator with over 20 years experience in the grades 7 to 12 classroom. In this video, I want to talk about something that's near and dear to my heart, music education. Specifically, the 5 music topics that I think should be taught in every middle school music classroom, meaning years 7 and 8. So let's get started. Five music topics that should be taught in every middle school music classroom. So welcome. As I said, we're going to talk about 5 different topics that I personally have used for many years, and I hope that you find that these are really good things and ideas for you to take into your own music classroom as well. So I just want to give you a bit of a background. So where I teach in Australia, in New South Wales, every school I've taught at, my kids, when they come to me in grade 7, okay, I get them from grade 7 through to 12, if they choose music all the way through, they usually come to music and to high school, which is what we call high school, 7 to 12, with very, very little music experience. And what I mean by that is some of the schools and some of the feeder primary schools, they virtually don't have any music education at all. They might do a bit of choir, they might do a bit of singing, they might do something else. Now, I've been teaching at different high schools around the state, and some of my high schools, like the current one that I have been teaching at for the last 8 years, there's a primary school that has a band, there's another primary school that does ukuleles and djembes, and they do that really well. Another primary school that's got barely anything, and another one of the feeder primary schools, barely anything. So the most of the kids, when they come to music and come to high school, have very little experience. So when I'm starting in grade 7 and 12, and this is why my resources are like they are, my kids haven't got anything. So I literally have to start from the beginning to give them the language they need, so that when we are actually doing something in class, they're actually building their skills as we go. So that's why I take them very much back to basics, so that they can actually hopefully enjoy music and get something out of it. So I'll get this presentation going and show you, and I'm going to share with you a lot of resources today, which I know I don't normally do, but I can guarantee you these are the topics that I love to teach, and the kids love doing them, okay? And these are resources that have been used year after year after year after year, and my kids, they always choose music. Always get a lot of elective classes in year 9 and 10. Okay, so again, in my state, it's compulsory for them to do some form of music in year 7 and 8, depending on the school, depends on what year they do it, or they might do it over both years. And then they can choose from 9, 10, 11, and 12, okay, if they want to take on music as a subject. So these topics that I teach, we are able to identify which are our really good musicians, our natural musicians. We're able to identify which kids are going to take on music and develop that love of music, which is what I really want. And I know you want that too, so that you get your kids coming back to work with you long term. And when I say that, I've had kids in year 12 who perform in the top 10% of the state. Okay, we work with them. So, we get them in year 7, and I've got kids that I had last year, for example, 2 boys in particular. I remember them in year 7, and they were amazing. And they had a bit of a music background, but we were able to develop something, and you could see in them that they were going to be music students all the way through. Okay, and I can see that nearly every year 7 group, I can go, yep, you're going to be a music student, you're going to be a music student, and you see that spark, and that's what we want. And so these are topics that I teach, and these are topics that help get that spark going. So let's get started. Topics that I like to do is, firstly, introduction to the elements of music or concepts of music, of rhythm. So rhythm or duration, whichever you prefer to call it. Then I like to move on to the orchestra, then film music. Now for me, that generally takes me through the year. But when I've taught at other schools where we teach it in year 7 and 8, then I actually move on to these other two topics, which is music of another culture, okay, which I do in year 8, and then jazz music. And then usually I go on to rock music as well. But I say, well, I'm only going to talk about 5 topics that the kids will enjoy. So, are you looking for the best music topics to teach your music students in middle school classrooms? So we're talking year 7 and 8 here. For me, it might be 5, 7, and 8 for you, okay? As a music teacher, you want to inspire and motivate your students while also teaching them practical skills. For this to be successful, you will need music topics that are school-friendly, yet still engaging enough to keep your students' attention and create meaningful learning opportunities. From exploring the elements of music through topics about music such as film music, that should be world music, not word music, the orchestra and jazz music, this blog post or this video will list 5 classroom tested music topics that will be sure to bring excitement to your middle school music classroom. And I'm going to go through each of those. So let's go number 1, introducing the elements of music of rhythm. Okay, this is a perfect place to start as far as I'm concerned, because you can get the kids performing, okay? There's lots and lots of different things you can do, and it's all in the unit that I've actually I will show you as well. But I can tell you now, what I find is when I'm getting kids and we're starting with this unit, the kids who can actually keep time generally have better literacy skills, and that's a really good indicator about where they're sitting academically as well. So I know it's not necessarily proven, but I can usually pick them. The kids who are really struggling, okay, to I'm doing that because I normally do bucket drumming, and that's what we're talking about, is that left right action, they crossing that midline, all those sorts of things. They sometimes struggle with that, but that's why I start with rhythm, because it's generally something everybody can do, because it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to rely on people being able to sing or perform on an instrument. So introducing the elements of music can be daunting. Where do you start? Okay, most music teachers choose to start their music classes by teaching their students about rhythm. For some classes, this might be a simple revision of the note values and music terminology associated with this element of music, but for other classes, you might need to start from scratch, which is generally what I have to do. What to know more about rhythm? Please go and read the blog post, which is all about that element of music over on my blog, juliajulia.com. You can see that down the bottom there. If you go there, you'll be able to find that blog post. But that explains all the fundamentals, okay? Everything that a kid will need to know, and maybe you. So there are several ways that you can easily engage your middle school music students with learning about rhythm. One way is to teach the note values, obviously, how to read and perform them, and then move on to understanding time signatures and tempo. Now, whether you choose to teach the note values as in quarter note or crotchet or ta, te, ticka, ticka, all those sorts of things, that's up to you. It really doesn't matter. And I will choose different things depending on the class. Okay, depending if the class isn't getting it, I will teach it another way, because I don't think that there's one way you must teach things. Most music students will love performing rhythms in a practical, hands-on way. So try doing this with bucket drums, desk drumming, percussion instruments, clapping, and body percussion. There are stacks of YouTube videos out there for body percussion, and I like to use as a lesson starter and a lesson finisher. It's a good way just to get them moving and like focusing on that, and it's just a bit of fun. But as I said, if you don't have buckets, get yourself some sticks, okay, whether that be drumsticks or whatever, and do it on the desk. Now, the other thing I usually do on the desk, though, is if I'm going to do that, is I will put something on the desk so it doesn't put dents in it, because I have done that before by mistake. It sort of happened. But anyway, you get that. Personally, I use this unit of work called Rhythm and Rap. Now, this particular unit, myself and another teacher many years ago, like about 15 years ago, we were working at redeveloping our year 7 and 8 programs, and this is what we came up with. And then I had to rejig it again a few years down the track for all sorts of other reasons. But anyway, this is the great way to introduce rhythm, and it just does it step by step. Okay, rhythm and duration to your middle school classes. This unit is a great introduction for students who might never have had a formal music lesson before, okay, which is mostly my kids. This fun music topic covers all the basics about note values, meter, time signature, and tempo. It culminates in a composition assessment where students work in small groups to write their own rap that they then perform using percussion instruments available in the classroom. Now, that assessment is in the actual unit of work. Okay, so you get all those bits in there. And I'll tell you what, the kids love doing this one. You get them to create their own rap. Sometimes it takes a while to get them to create their lyrics and whatever else, and then perform it. And generally I get the kids to use whatever we have on hand in class, which might be a djembe, it might be some sort of other drum, might be any sort of other percussion instruments, generally untuned though. I don't let them necessarily have tuned instruments, because that just adds another layer of difficulty in there, whereas this one just keeps it nice and simple. Now the thing is I love about this, I'm killing two birds with one stone. One, they're performing it, so they get marked on the performance, and two, they're getting marked on their composition, so the written part of it, how they actually created it and how that composition is put together. And that's the particular unit there. And you can see it's got rap music and meter and words, and then it's got the rhythm and rap assignment. Now, that particular rhythm and rap assignment, it does have a little composition, like some lyrics that you can use, but generally I don't let my kids use those lyrics. I say, this is an example, but you can actually do something else yourself, okay, if you want to. And generally they do, and they love doing it. And I tell you what, they love performing with each other. They love working with each other. That is the unit. It will take you a whole term to actually get through. So my next topic I'd like to move on to, and the reason I'd like to move on to this is because by this time we'll start pitch, okay, or melody, and also instruments, okay, which is your timbre and your tone color, so performance techniques and what they're listening to. So this is why I like to go onto the instruments of the orchestra, because it gives kids a good broad sort of musical range, so they can listen and hear things and know what they're actually listening to. And the fun thing is most of these kids don't know what the instruments of the orchestra are. And I know it's very European centered, but it's just a good basis to give them an idea of how to classify instruments, what they sound like, what are the performance techniques, because that all helps them much later on down the track with all sorts of other things in music. And again, instruments of the orchestra, it leads into all sorts of other things, but it's one of my favorites to do. The kids actually do enjoy it. And it's funny, I like to use some videos from, what's it called? The BBC. And they introduce the instruments of the orchestra. And each video starts with, hello, my name is Grant. I am the conductor of the orchestra. And, and the kids and they're all in skivvies and different colors. Kids love it. They just think it's like the Wiggles. I don't know if you know who the Wiggles are, but being an Aussie, we all know who the Wiggles are because my kids grew up with that. Anyway, middle school music lessons are a great opportunity to introduce students to all the instruments of the orchestra and the element of music timbre, or the concept of music tone color. By exploring topics about music that include the orchestra, students can learn about string instruments, brass, woodwinds, and percussion, okay, the instruments in each family. Teaching about the orchestra, the instruments, their method of sound production, and unique sound qualities helps all music students with their music appreciation and listening skills. And that's the biggie. And that's why I like to teach the orchestra, because it's like, well, they can hear something, but what actually are you hearing? What can you hear there? And it's generally, oh, that's a string instrument. Great. Is it a high string or a low string? And you could get them to differentiate and get them to discern what they're listening to a little bit easier. So the orchestra is one of the most essential topics about music that you can teach your students. These instruments in the orchestra will help your students to discover music that they might not have ever heard before. The study of this music topic about the orchestra allows them to discover new kinds of music and explore how they sound when all the instrumental pieces come together in an ensemble. Middle school music classes offer a unique learning opportunity for students, for children to discover more than just a few basics they've learned in their elementary music program, if they've actually had that program at all. Not all of them do. So to help you with this topic, I'm going to show you what I use. There's this unit of work. Now it includes everything. Okay, so your teaching materials includes links to Grant from the BBC and all sorts of things. Now, I'm very particular when I do a link to YouTube, because I'd like to try and give my kids the visual. I want them to be able to see the instruments being performed, okay, and how they're being performed, so they get to see what it looks like as well as hear it. And depending on things, I might turn the vision off or just have the sound. It's up to what depends on the class, okay. But printable pages, everything that you need is in there for the orchestra, and that is in this particular one. So you can see it starts off nice and basic. What is the orchestra? What is the layout? And then we go through each family, each instrument in the family, and after each family you have a listening task, or a listening lesson. Okay, so, and it's just based on the wood, like it might be all the woodwinds playing together, or the brass playing together, or the percussion playing together. And again, the kids really like looking at those pieces because they get to see people actually playing them. And yeah, they really enjoy it. So my third topic, now normally by now I should say that last one, I'll go back into that. That does have an assignment in it as well. Now, I don't always use it at my current school. I don't use this assignment, but I did at my last school, which is called Make an Instrument assignment. Now, that's included in there. You can actually buy it separately as well, but it works perfectly with the orchestra because you, again, composing, performing. Okay, the kids have to actually create an instrument, then they have to perform on it for about 30 seconds, which is much harder than it looks, especially if you're just using some tapping sticks, okay, some clave. They have to perform on the instruments, and again, it just reinforces what they've done. They have to talk about the method of sound production, the sound qualities, all sorts of things, and it all links in with this unit from the orchestra. So again, great way to actually introduce the topic and get them assessed. Now, this last topic. So normally, as I said, personally, I've usually done all my assessment. So when I'm doing film music, we get to have a bit of fun. Okay, we don't have to necessarily, we've already, maybe done guitars and ukuleles and keyboards and all that sort of stuff. And when we actually get to film music, we get to play lots of different songs associated with films. So that it's a good way to end the year. It's also a good way to be able to justify watching a movie, just putting it out there, because sometimes you just have to. So middle school music lessons are a great way for students to learn about diverse topics such as music featured in films and movies. Okay, music topics such as music history and music appreciation through the elements of music can be explored through the study of music in film. By analysing the soundtracks, themes, motifs and background music in movies and films that students know and love, engagement in the classroom will be at an all-time high. And they love actually doing this. Now, by this stage, I've taught all the elements of music and all the concepts. Okay, so they've got a good understanding, I hope, of all those things, so that this is that culmination of all that in film music. So in the film music unit, your students will learn about the history of film, okay, what is a music soundtrack, the types of music used in film, as well as a deeper study into one of the most famous movie composers of all time, John Williams. This unit includes lessons, worksheets, extension activities, music appreciation, and listening activities. Plus, I'll let you in on a secret. Personally, I have used this unit at the end of the year. I said I generally teach this at the end of the year and don't assess it. It gives you the perfect reason to watch a movie in class. You are studying the music and how it is used. A couple of my favorite movies that I like to use, two I really like to use because they use the music really well, is Shrek and The Sandlot. Now, as of recording this in 2023, Shrek is an older movie. So is The Sandlot. And Shrek, it's funny, not all my kids, when we show it, have actually seen it. And so it's a really like, oh, wow, they didn't know that, because it's much older than them. Years ago, it's like, oh, I've seen Shrek because they'd seen it at the movies. They don't anymore because it's not necessarily something they always see, even though it's on TV a lot. And The Sandlot's another good one because it uses music really, really well in terms of how it has this theme, this really scary bit for this scary thing, which I'm not going to reveal, but that's another great movie to watch and to see how music is actually used in the film. So you can see this fun unit of work, as I'm going to show you in a minute. And these activities, students can understand the amazing power of music in film better than ever before, because it is, as we know, music can make or break a film. And this is the particular unit. So, I always like that first page there, 3 things I know about music in the movies. I always start every unit with that sort of activity. What do you know? What do you think we're going to learn? All that sort of stuff. KWL chart. No. Oh, geez, my brain's, anyway. A history of film music itself, soundtracks, and then obviously there's all listening activities all the way through inbuilt in each of these. There's always writing activities to go with your listening activities as well, and there's always comprehension lessons to go with any of the music history stuff as well. So there's lots and lots of things to keep your kids engaged. So the next topic, now generally, that's me, that's my year, okay? I normally get about 3 topics done really well, okay? Sometimes I'm, depending on the class, and I have to say, this is 2023 as of recording. The last few years, our years, couple of years have been pretty dodgy in that COVID has interrupted a lot of things, and I have not had a normal year in quite a few years. I've taught bits and pieces depending on when we were on lockdown and when we were back, and it has been a mess, which I'm sure you are aware. So I don't always get to do everything. Haven't always had that chance to do everything. But normally, if I was teaching through to year 8, okay, which I haven't, depending on what school I'm teaching at, I will start the next year with music of a culture. Now, depending again on how many lessons you teach over the course of the year, or how long your kids are actually, you have them in front of you, depends on what topics you teach. All right, but this is this would be my next go-to one that I would actually teach, because it leads into so many other things nicely. So music has long served as a bridge between cultures around the globe and a way to explore the diversity of other places. Middle school music classes stand to benefit greatly from music topics that introduce and educate students on music from around the world, such as traditional African music, Japanese koto music, or even Aboriginal music. Now, as an Australian, we always cover Aboriginal music anyway. But, you know, depending on where you are in the world, music of a culture is different for you, because it depends on what culture is your natural culture. Okay, so everybody's different. But these are the sorts of things I generally cover: Aboriginal music and African music. Sometimes I'll add in an Asian culture, depending on the sort of kids I have in my class, and where they're from. Okay, so I like to include that as well. So by bringing music of different cultures into the classroom, students can begin to appreciate both their own cultural music heritage as well as music from elsewhere around the world, which is a powerful tool depending in creating global understanding and respect. Furthermore, exposing students to music from around the world provides an impetus for more research that can spark student interest in culture and heritage music topics related to music beyond the classroom. Now, I must say, I sometimes, when I'm doing instruments of the orchestra, so let's go back there a bit, I will show my kids orchestras from around the world, because a Chinese orchestra and the instruments in a Chinese orchestra are very different, but similar to a European one. Okay, and it's really good to see, or like an Indonesian gamelan. Okay, that different type of ensemble, just different instruments and what they can see, and again, just trying to create and make links for kids. Okay, through music lessons focus on music from different countries and cultures, middle school classes have a chance to open up their minds to new sounds, new instruments, and expand horizons beyond what is familiar. So the wonderful thing about world music is, or music of another culture, is there are so many out there you choose, and it is just so wonderful that you can choose so many different instruments, so many different cultures, and bring that into your classroom. And again, I've got some resources to help you with that. So there are several resources to help you teach world music available in my store. I've got the World Music Mini Bundle, which is one of my top selling products. This includes 4 great resources that allow for flexibility in what you choose to teach and how you teach it. And then another one is a Music and Cultures Around the World bundle. This bundle resource is for Google Slides, and it has also a printable version for each part. It can be used for whole class instruction or independent research. Now, that Music Cultures from Around the World bundle really was out of necessity a couple of years ago, obviously, when we were all teaching digitally, and I needed to give my students something when we were doing world cultures, so world music. So they actually did a lot of independent study that way. But it's a good resource that you can use either as a whole class instruction or independently. So here's the world music bundle. So you can see there's actually a world music unit of work, which you can see there. It actually goes through the African music, Chinese music, and Indonesian music, the gamelan mainly. Those world music instrument worksheets are great for sub lessons or for independent research lessons, depending on what you have available in your classroom. There's a bulletin board, and there's also an assessment. And that African music assessment I have used for years and years and years at my previous school, and to a degree in a slightly different format in my current school. And again, it's fantastic assessment for composition and performance. Love it, love it, love it. And this is the instruments of the World Bundle cover. Now, this is an old cover. I'll be updating this, but you can see there's lots of different instruments, and it literally there's so many different instruments from around the world in this bundle. Go and have a look, because you can get them independently. Again, you don't have to get the whole thing. From Native American music to music from different parts of Asia, different parts of all over the world of America. Okay, yeah, stacks there. Go and have a look. And the thing is with this, I've got links to all the different types of instruments so that you can go and have a look, and your kids can have a look and see the instrument and listen to it as well. And my last one that I normally teach, as said, this would be normally my year 8, and I would go into probably one more topic after this, is jazz music. So learning a wide variety of music topics in middle school is essential for understanding music fundamentals. Through music lessons, students have the opportunity to delve into topics about music such as jazz music and learn more about great music artists and their styles. Through interactive music lessons on jazz music, students will gain a better understanding of music composition, key signatures, scales, rhythm, music dynamics, and core composition techniques, all of which are important topics for music that all students should be familiar with. Now, the nice thing about jazz, and what reason I love it, is it links perfectly in with African music, and then because obviously, beginnings of jazz came out of that in America, and then jazz music moved into the blues music, which moved into rock. Okay, and then pop. And that's where I normally take my kids on that journey from jazz to blues to rock to pop, okay, in year 8 and beyond. So not only will a student gain wealth of knowledge in how the elements of music are used through jazz music, but they'll also experience an appreciation for this unique topic of music. Thus, taking part in a middle school music lesson dedicated to learning about jazz music is essential for development and growth in any student's musical journey. And the nice thing about jazz is, again, you could get those kids performing on lots and lots of different instruments. So many different songs out there at different ability levels that you can get them engaging with and having fun. And there's, again, so much out there in terms of for listening. So you don't have to use what I'll show you in a minute. The listening pieces, you can choose your own. It doesn't matter. As long as the kids are actually engaging with the core content and the topic some way. So to make it easier though, so you don't have to reinvent the wheel, to teach this topic to your classes, try the Jazz Music Mini Bundle. It includes everything that you need to introduce this music topic to your students. So in the bundle is a bulletin board, which has all these wonderful musicians. And then also there's this musicians worksheet plus a unit of work and an assignment, I think. Can't remember, sorry. And I couldn't find the cover to do this because I'm in the middle of updating things. But again, these musician worksheets are great for an assignment, for whole class instruction, all sorts of things. And with these musician worksheets, you get links to every single musician and a piece of music from them, and one of their most famous pieces of music that you can use in class to study and listen to. And this is a really very much a mix and match unit, okay, because you can choose to maybe, okay, we're going to look at Benny Goodman, and we might focus on the element of say pitch, where if you're doing Charlie Parker, you might focus on tonality. If you're doing Duke Ellington, you might focus on rhythm. It's up to you, because all the questions and that are there, so you can mix and match. Now, obviously you can get all those independently and individually, but there's also these bundles, and I've got other bigger bundles as well, but just go and have a look. So the rhythm and rap, the orchestra, and film music, which is generally what I teach in year 7, okay, my first lots of units, okay, you can get that as one bundle, plus these other added resources are in there, and that would cover you for a whole year. Covers me for a whole year, so it would cover you for a whole year. And again, that is a really good way to purchase everything, and you got your year sorted. Why not? But for the other one, as I said, I normally would go on from African and jazz music to rock music to pop, and then instruments of rock. And I've got the assessments in there as well. Again, that's what I would generally teach in year 8. All right, that's what I'm moving on. So we start in year 7, move into year 8. Again, depends on your school, because what you actually teach and how often and how many lessons your kids get. So I hope this video has given you some ideas on how to teach your students about the different elements of music, orchestra, film music, world music, and jazz music. If you're looking for more resources for teaching middle school music, please be sure to check out the resources that are available in my store. Okay, and thanks for watching. But as I said, I've got a few more things for you. So if you'd like some more ideas and you want another freebie on how to make over your music curriculum, because maybe you've started your year or you're thinking about next year, depending on where you are and when you're watching this, go to this link here, juliagia.com/make over your music curriculum. Now that gives you 5 ideas of ways that you can make over your music curriculum so that you are engaging your kids and hopefully having less problems in the classroom in terms of for behavior and those sorts of things that are making it interesting. So, hi, I'm Julia from GU Teaching Resources, and my mission is to help busy music teachers like you in classrooms around the world with resources you need to teach music appreciation to inspire the next generation of musicians, because that's my job. I want to inspire the next generation of musos. Why not? Because we all need a bit of music. So if you'd like to know more, you can obviously find everything about the elements of music over on my blog at juliagu.com. All for free. There's stacks of things there for you to use. If you're looking to buy some resources, please go over to my Teachers Pay Teacher store at Julia Teaching Resources. And if you'd like another freebie, okay, then I've got the Elements of Music mind maps there, which is juliagia.com/free mind maps. Now, they are the mind maps that are used in all of my blog posts about the elements of music, and they're blank ones so that you can fill them in with your kids, use them for all sorts of different things in your classroom. So I really hope that this has given you stacks of ideas to actually teach your classes in your middle school years, okay? They can be a difficult group because they think they're a bit too cool for school, you know, they know everything. We know they don't, but they think they do. And it's hard to engage them. So I'm really hoping that this has given you some sort of inspiration for what you might want to choose to use with your classes in the future. I said, I've done all the hard work for you. Simply go and get those resources and do what you need to do to teach those kids. Look, they allow for a lot of flexibility in the classroom. They're not meant to be you must teach it this way. It gives you lots of things and resources so that you can teach it the way you want to teach it with your kids, because every kid is different. So until next time, I'm Julia from GU Teaching Resources, and happy teaching. Bye.